What could you do to protect your pets if you're sick or injured? My product, Save My Pet ID Tag, helps you ensure that your beloved pets are safe and well cared for, even when life isn't what you expect.
There is a reason ticks rhyme with ick. They are icky. And they've been on our planet for eons. They're always looking to grab a blood meal from you, your dog, your cat. But guess what? We have a tick superhero on our show today. He will arm us with tips and tricks and some tick puns. Wait for it, yep. To help us deal with this nasty beast. So at this time, please give pause and applause. He's called Tick Man Dan Wolf. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you, Arden. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm so glad that we got introduced by some mutual friends and happy to spread the good word about ticks.
Yeah, we're going to give a shout out. Jared and Kara Armour, they live in Massachusetts, as does Tick Man Dan. And we didn't realize they introduced me about you. So I'm delighted. I'm ready to dig in to talk about ticks. But before I do, this show also goes on YouTube. And so, Dan, you need to tell people, for the ones watching, just listening, what are you wearing?
Well, this is a tick tee.
Tick t-shirt. Okay.
And it's it's part of my uniform as Tick Man Dan. And
okay.
The idea is certainly not to make fun of anything, but it's to get noticed.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Even when I'm wandering around, if I can get somebody to just look at it and go, "Ooh, what is that?" I can tell them. A lot of people actually mistaken ticks for spiders. And so when I'm walking around, a lot of people go, "Oh, that's a gross spider." And then I get a chance to engage in a conversation with them and let them know that, no, this is a tick. And
there's other things that you have on you that are also tick related.
Yes. I often refer to this to tell my time. And
well, tell people that are just listening as a podcast, what is that you're holding up?
It's my tick watch, and it has an adult female deer tick on it. And when you listen to it, it says tick, 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 tick. And I also have, and I'm going to show you my very sexy legs. So
okay, guys, settle down, everybody. Yep. Who's showing us calf? Oh my God, two ticks.
The tick tattoos that I have. This is a Lone Star, and this is a deer tick.
Oh my God!
I have those tattooed on my leg. So actually, when I talk to people, I tell them, "Oh, and by the way, I have two ticks on my leg right now," and they go, "No." And I go, "Yes, I promise you, I have two ticks on my leg." And then I pull up my pants and the joke is revealed.
I'm so glad it's on your calf muscle.
You don't know where my other ones are.
I'm not asking, but the point is this. We're joking, but sometimes humor is needed to get out good safety information, right?
Absolutely. And that's been my philosophy, as it appears as though is your philosophy as well. It's really important to have something that people will remember. So while we're entertaining, we're also providing good information, which is the most important part. But we want it to be memorable. And that's the key.
And the reason we asked you on the show is because you're also an inventor. So you're not only interested in the ticks, but you're also interested in how to remove ticks. And so some people just say, yeah, we'll do some. You did some. Can you bring us back to what you invented, what it was called, and what it is now called?
Sure, that's a good question. And it's an interesting story. At some point in my past, I was a divorced single dad of two boys and two dogs.
Okay.
That would be Charlie and Champ. And I became an avid outdoorsman. So I spent a lot of time in the woods in eastern Massachusetts. And as many people will know, the Northeast and the upper Midwest are really hot spots and have been historically in the U.S. for ticks, and in particular, reported cases of Lyme disease.
Okay.
So I really didn't think much about it when I was growing up in Maryland, back in the 70s.
Yeah.
I never even encountered a tick. And even when I was a young man, when we moved to the Boston area in 1977, when I was 13, so now I'm telling you how old I am.
I've done the math.
We never encountered them. But about 25 years ago, people started getting Lyme in our area. I started seeing more and more ticks, and it's only gotten much, much worse since then. And there's a variety of reasons for that. And I was concerned because my 10-year-old Matt came down one day and I noticed that he had a tick stuck in his back. And by the way, I've been personally bitten by deer ticks in excess of 250 times. And that's
and just the species deer tick.
deer ticks. Yes. I've never had any Lone Stars or dog ticks on me that I am aware of. And so, for me, hey, whatever, I pull it off, not knowing how to do it correctly. But then when my son got a tick on him, I was more concerned.
Of course.
Now it's him. And
yeah, it's Matt.
I started looking online. I started doing research. I became obsessed and fascinated with ticks. And from that point on, I just have never stopped looking at them and studying them. And I've had an opportunity to remove, I'm guessing, in excess of 3,000 live ticks from their hosts. And with every method possible, because one thing I did discover that was very relevant and very in my face was that there's so many different people telling you different things about what to do when you find an attached.
It is. You're swimming in a pool of misinformation and probably with the abundance of ticks. So you said all different. We're going to get into some of that in a minute, but I want people to know you invented something. What did you invent?
I did. First of all, I want to tell you, I'm no rocket scientist here. I just think simple is better. And that's the philosophy that I found online regarding tick removal. And the most recommended method from the top organizations and experts that I found was simply using a fine tip tweezer to grasp the tick down at the skin surface, grasp it firmly, and lift straight up. And so I was thinking to myself, this is great. I'm going to go buy tick tweezers online. But what I found was there were no tick tweezers or, specifically for removing ticks. And the fine tip tweezers that I found could range in price from $10 to $100, depending on what, type of tweezer you got. But I also did find value in what they call a scoop method, which seems ideal for removing larger engorged ticks, mainly from animals, because typically we find them after they're engorged because their ticks are harder to find on fur-covered creatures. So I did note that was a good method as well, given the right circumstances. And by circumstances, I mean the right size tick in the right area on the dog or cat or pet or animal's body, because you can't really scoop out a tiny nymphal stage deer tick with a scoop when it's lodged right in the crevice of the dog's ear or in the crotch or that area. So I thought that this was a good thing to do. And so I just kind of started sketching some designs.
Nice.
And what I found was that if you took a sharp tweezer, you can see that. And for all the non-video users here, it is a tweezer with a 45-degree angle, and it's very sharp at the end. So that would be the perfect tool to use. And I've had to use these on nymphal stage ticks, which are incredibly small. And they have fed on occasion in my belly button, on the inner wall of my belly button. And so
wait a minute. This is the perfect. What is your motto?
My motto is do your daily tick checks and don't neglect your crevices. I mean, that
means belly buttons.
Yes, belly buttons, crevices, groin area, behind the ears, in the ears, and other tight places. So when you have an angled pointy tweezer like this, it's just perfect for being able to go in there. It's not so easy if it's a straight tip tweezer.
I like that.
But if that's all you have, then by all means use it, because the trick is to get the tick out as soon as possible.
Isn't it about 24 hours or less is the best? Because
I don't believe that at all. I think 1 second is too long that a tick is attached, because there's a lot going on. I mean, if we had more time, I could get into the.
I know, and I wish we did. But so,
yeah.
what is this called? How do people get their paws on it?
Let me tell you about the backside. Here's the
Okay.
scoop side. And
Okay.
this side is also angled, and it's perfect for sliding under the tick and simply lifting up. So if you have a
Okay.
squirmy dog or a cat that doesn't really want you messing around with them too much, like my dog Henry, you're able to kind of surprise them and just go in real quick, slide it in, and pop it up. But again, only if it's in the right place and it's the right size of tick. So I originally invented this product, and it was called Tickies, the only two-sided tweezer available. And I was fortunate enough to come in contact with a company called Bug Bite Thing after I saw them get a deal with Lori Grenier on Shark Tank.
Oh, I like her. Yeah.
And I reached out to them because they had a suction tool that's designed to relieve the pain and itching of insect bites and bee stings and so forth, particularly mosquitoes. So one thing led to another, and lo and behold, they bought my company last summer, and they are now rebranding the Tickies product to what's called the Bug Bite Thing Tick Remover. And we're just starting to get that out in the mass markets and other platforms for sales. So I'm doing a lot of content here. Yeah.
We're speaking with Dan Wolf. He's better known as Tickman Dan. And we're going to dig into tick trivia, the new definition of tick-tock. We already found it on his watch, and more after we take this break. So keep your pets away from ticks. We'll be right back.
Hey, have you heard? Four-Legged Life has a new digital newsletter. Here, let me show you how you get yourself subscribed. So you just type in Four-Legged Life, and that'll take you to the website. There we go. And this magic thing just appears, and you type in your email address. I'll use, let's see, how about coolestdogever@gmail.com. That's me. And then you just click on this thing here. There you go. It's the new digital newsletter from Four-Legged Life. Get subscribed today.
I have been looking forward to this guest all week. He is Dan Wolf, better known as Tickman Dan. And I was going on the sites. You work with some brainiacs, and you all, I think it's Rhode Island University. Is that the one you're working with, or which one are you working with?
Yes, one of the universities I work with is University of Rhode Island. Their tickencounter.org site and program is, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, for content and information and prevention and awareness.
And your own father, the bug to know science and to help, it's genetic, right?
Probably not quite as genetic as I'd like. Unfortunately, he passed away in the mid-90s, but before he died, he was the head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease. So he was a big guy in research on infectious disease and public health, and certainly being in that same realm of infectious disease, because Lyme disease right now is the fastest growing vector-borne illness in the country.
And isn't it named after someplace in Connecticut?
That's correct. It's named after Lyme, Connecticut, where another contact friend of my father's was at Yale, and they were noticing that there was a concentration of pediatric arthritis cases, a cluster of them, so to speak, in I think it was the mid 70s. And so it brought that to the attention of the public health people. And the gentleman from Yale, Dr. Sam Thier, had dispatched one of his guys, Alan Steer, out to discover and figure out what was going on. And as a result, they found the Borrelia bacteria.
Wow.
And then it was deemed Lyme disease.
All right. I've been waiting for this all week. Time to play a little game, Tick Trivia. You ready, Mr. Tickman?
I'm ready.
Mr. Tickman Dan? Okay. All right. True or false? Ticks jump.
False.
All right. How do they get on our bodies and on the bodies of our pets?
Yes. Ticks are physically incapable of jumping, flying, or transporting themselves onto you magically. Ticks have two methods of getting on you depending on the type of tick.
Okay.
All ticks are equipped with sensory organs that are detect the host in some way or another. Like a
Like a
mosquito.
spidey sense, like Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, more like a mosquito. They can sense carbon dioxide and heat, and movement, vibrations, that kind of thing.
Wow.
But not all tick species have a very developed sensory system. For
Okay.
example, the Lone Star tick, which is an aggressive, fast-moving, what we call hunter,
Okay.
will seek you out and destroy you.
Oh,
Not-
kind of like the wasp versus a bee. Wasps are nasty. They keep hitting you. All right.
Yeah. You-
Okay.
You can
Oh,
say
that's
that.
cool.
Yeah. So these Lone Star ticks, who are not known for commonly carrying Lyme disease, more for something called alpha-gal syndrome, which is horrible because it gives you a red meat allergy pretty much for life
Wow.
for some
Wow.
people. And that's a big one because I do enjoy my red meat.
Okay.
So they are called hunters. And
Okay.
they are now exploding onto our scene here. So
Oh,
they're
okay.
around. The deer ticks have a very dulled sensory system.
Okay.
And so they do something called questing. And questing is when they would perch themselves on the tip of a leaf or tall grass, and they would basically wait for something to brush by. And they have little hooks. I don't know if you can see on the shirt.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Little hooks on the very ends of their front legs that act like Velcro. And so when they can notice something coming, but they can only sit there and start to wave their arms around. And if anything comes by, they're stuck to them, and then they will begin to crawl up and search and get into your skin through your clothes or through under your clothes. And
Okay.
they will find
Well,
a
let's
nice
keep going
smooth
because
way
I
to-
got some other
Okay.
things. I wish I could talk to you for hours, but I want to get some more in.
You
You
got it.
did a TikTok video where you took a white sheet or a pillowcase. Tell people quickly in Western Mass or Eastern Mass what you did.
Yeah, that's called flagging for ticks, and this is how
Okay.
people mainly collect ticks. And basically, I stapled a towel, a light-colored towel, to a dowel. In this case, it was a garden hoe, the backside of a garden hoe. And basically, that video was at the end of February here in Massachusetts, and the adult ticks were active. So I just was waving it and dragging it across the brush. It was actually a brushy area on the side of a dog walking trail on conservation
no.
land. And it's funny because I did it on both sides, and only the sunny side where the sun hit it in the morning really had the ticks on it. So they were all concentrated on that side of the trail. And after only about 60 to 70 yards, I did pull off about 40 to 50 deer ticks.
Ouch. Okay. Another tick trivia. When they're babies, I guess they're called nymphs, right?
They're an egg, larva, nymph, adult.
Okay. So what does a tick nymph look like on a person's skin?
I'll show you even better.
Oh.
What do they look like in real life?
Okay.
And
Oh,
I don't,
no.
for those people who don't have video,
Okay.
they're wicked small.
Wicked small. That sounds very Boston like. Oh my gosh.
I don't know if you can see them.
Yeah. Somebody
But-
said they look like a little seed or something, right?
They're about the size of a poppy seed.
Oh, so you think you just got a seed, but you got a teenage tick.
That's the problem. Even though, all right, so a tick has to get the germs from the things they feed on. So the older a tick is, the more times it's had a chance to feed, the more of a chance it contains infectious germs. So the nymphs being young are at much less of a percentage wise of carrying disease, but more people get sick from them because they're so small and they're very hard to detect.
So we're out on the woods. Is there any kind of clothing that will help you be more tick repellent, or is that what do you do?
As far as clothing is concerned, my biggest recommendation, and some people prefer to stay away from the chemical products, but I am convinced that this product is the best.
Okay.
Or it's called permethrin, part of the pyrethroid family,
yeah.
which was used back in the day for kids who had lice. It was in their shampoos, same family of chemicals. But nowadays, you can get permethrin. It's a company called Insect Shield. and you apply it to your clothing only. It's not for your skin. And when it dries, it becomes non-water soluble, but it will kill the ticks and not just repel them, which is really important.
All right. I've heard the expression that ticks are sometimes called germ-filled balloons. What does that mean?
Essentially, in the simplest terms, they're a squishy sack with a hollow tube that's sharp and barbed. And so if you think of it that way, they are more like a cesspool of a sack of germs. And so when they're feeding, they expand like a water balloon, filling up with your blood and spitting and sucking and spitting. So it's pretty gross, but that's how they can transfer or vector these harmful pathogens from themselves into your body. So you don't want to squeeze that body while it's attached. You don't want to tear it open.
Zits. It's like zits.
Exactly.
Right?
You don't want to pop it, tear it open, or agitate it, or put heat or oil or anything else on it while it's attached to you.
So getting it removed, like with a tick tool like you have, is a smart thing to do.
Yeah, because if you use your fingers, some people are like, oh, I just use my fingers. I mean, listen, do whatever you want. I'm here to tell you that it's not a good idea because your fingers are fat compared to a tick, and you may possibly squeeze it or even tear it. And then now you have what I call yucky tick juice on your fingers near that bite site.
And you rub your eyes.
You can rub your eye, scratch your nose, any of that stuff, and it could potentially expose you to those risks.
A wives' tale, true or false? Let's just drown the tick in petroleum jelly. That'll work. Does it?
Yeah, it might work, but you're just agitating and poisoning and killing that tick while it's attached to you, which can't be good. What you want to do is pull that tick out, surprise it, pull it out. If the tick is wandering around and walking and is okay, you've done it right. You don't want to find pieces of that tick, tear it.
How do you dispose of a removed tick safely?
If it was removed from a human, I strongly suggest that you don't dispose of it.
Okay.
Save the tick. If you have a dog that's been getting tons and tons of ticks, it may not be so necessary to save the tick because I'm talking about sending it in for testing.
Okay, to make sure you don't have a tick-borne disease.
Just to make sure you know what's in that tick that bit you. Doesn't necessarily mean that whatever was in that tick is going to infect you, but it helps you and your physician make a decision on treating yourself if, in fact, you start to feel symptoms, because the onset of symptoms of most tick-borne illnesses are very similar to each other. Okay. And they will be fever, headache, fatigue, joint pain. Any of those symptoms can be a result of tick-borne illness. So what's nice to know is, since ticks can carry bacterium, viruses, and parasites.
Oh, wonderful. Trifecta.
Right. And you can get them from one bite. You can get all three. It's kind of rare, but they're called co-infections. And a bacteria is treated with antibiotics. Viruses are not treated pretty much with anything, just to make you feel better until it runs its course. But parasites are treated with other medications, not antibiotics, and, more like malarial drugs.
Yeah.
So if you pull off a tick, you save it, you start to feel sick, you send it in, and it says negative for Lyme, but positive for Babesia.
I like that. Where do you send it?
I work with another University of Massachusetts here. The tick lab that I sent to moved out of that umbrella, but is still located in the same town. It's called tickreport.com. And they will
report.com.
Yeah,
good.
They'll send you an answer within 72 hours of receiving that tick, and the PCR testing is highly accurate.
I can just imagine you on an airplane, in an elevator, at a social gathering, and people are saying, "So, Dan, what do you do for a living?" I'm glad you don't say I sell insurance, because you probably nobody will talk to you. You must have to fend off people. You must be like a rock star when they know what you do.
When I was single, I have this phone. On the back of my phone is a ticket that says, "Please ask me about ticks." And what I would do is I'd, belly up to the bar. I'd leave it on the bar, in a very visible spot. And you could see people looking at it. And sometimes they would just kind of look and make a face. And then eventually, I don't know, maybe they have had a couple of drinks. They're like, all right, what is this? Ask me about ticks. And then we start up a conversation.
So how do people follow you? I could talk to you all day, but we got to wrap things up. How do people follow you, Dan Wolf, Tickman Dan?
At Tickman Dan. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok and YouTube. So I'm just building that up now because once I had sold the company, the previous company, I really had to start from scratch. So I am a content machine right now. So if you want information, it's best to go. And please, everybody, your best support could be through liking, following, subscribing.
Exactly.
Anything.
I'm going to do that for you. I hope you'll follow my YouTube channel, Arden Moore.
I already did.
Okay, we're already Facebook buds, I think, right?
Yep.
Okay. I just feel like I met a brother from a different mother, and I love that you are helping and using humor. And so I'm serious, man. You've been one of my most favorite guests I've had in a long time.
Thank you so much.
And you ticked me off in a good way. What else can we say? Come on, throw some puns at me.
You're tickled pink, and it's been a fantastic interview.
Oh my God. I'm so
let me tell you,
happy.
if people want to contact me before I start charging, I have a tick line. It's 855-BAD-TICK. And I listen to that call, and I help people take the steps necessary to reduce their exposure in any way I can. And I've been getting these calls for years now.
I am so honored to have you on the show. Everyone, please check out Tickman Dan.
Thanks so much for making our tails wag by watching this guest interview from Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life. Make sure to subscribe so you're up to date with all of our Four-Legged Life content.